a great American brand, or it was a great American brand. It's no longer great. And by the way, it's no longer American, just for the record. I'm talking about Budweiser, Bud Light. They have a brand new marketing plan that I'm going to tell you about in a second. But to my point on it used to be a great American beer, well, a couple of big conglomerates got together out of Brazil and out of Europe, and they came together, they formed a company, and they bought Budweiser for many, 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 many dollars. And so a lot of the family members from the Anheuser-Busch family, they did well, but the company's very different. Very different. I mean, all kinds of things happened, right? They changed their headquarters. The marketing headquarters used to be in St. Louis. Now they're in New York. And with that went sort of the entry of a whole different line of thinking about how we're going to market. And I think they're all the same people that were kind of in cahoots with, the people we were talking about in the beginning of the show, right? So you've got a group think mentality. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're getting this TikToker to do their beer ads. I'm not going to torture you with that one again. But as a result of that, everybody was upset. Everybody was mad. So many of you were like, oh my gosh, like I remember the first time I had Bud Light, I'd just gotten off my factory shift, blah, 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 or I was with my dad outside on the farm. I mean, this is everyday Americans, right? We're all everyday Americans, and we can remember these stories. And Bud Light was iconic, #1 beer in America. And then its sales started tanking. They're still tanking. So they got to come up with new ideas. Well, this is the latest and greatest. I mean, they got Kid Rock. They got Kid Rock to come out and endorse them. They got Travis Kelce, right? Like everybody's getting Taylor and Travis. And now they've got a guy I actually had never heard of, but they must think he can help because he got canceled, so to speak. He was a successful comedian, was, I guess, going to be on SNL, and he got canceled because he got, in trouble for saying some things that people misinterpreted, because Lord knows you can't have a sense of humor about anything these days. I mean, you can't even talk about alligator moats. That's yesterday's show you're going to watch. I think it's hysterical. I do think it's hysterical. Anyway, yeah, you can't talk about these things. So they got out this guy. What's his name? Let's put up his Instagram because, here he is. Shane Gillis. He just announced on Instagram. Maybe we'll go to Instagram first, and then we'll share this from the New York Post. Just happened like seconds ago. Shane Gillis, he's got a paid partnership with Bud Light, and he's really excited to announce it. He is a Bud Light partner, and the New York Post did a story on it. You can see they think it's going to save him because apparently he actually was canceled himself, and so somehow there's some kind of simpatico there. So he's a comedian, and they think that this is going to be the be all end all. The marketing guy, I guess, said something to Fox Business about how this was going to usher in a new time, et cetera, et cetera. They're hoping and praying like something's going to happen, right? So this is all designed to go with the March Madness campaign. They write, Gillis is no stranger to culture himself. The comic was hired by Saturday Night Live in 2019, coming to us from the New York Post, by the way, I'm just quoting here, but was promptly fired after old jokes he made on his podcast resurfaced. Whew. And many interpreted this as being really problematic. So what did they do? They fired him. And I guess he went on Joe Rogan recently, and he talked about this whole thing. He's talked about Bud Light. He made fun of Bud Light. He said, and I quote, "It became a joke. That's tough to overcome. Marketing-wise, it's tough to get people to order a Bud Light publicly. You're gonna get made fun of." Wow, so then Bud Light goes and hires him. Bud Light's like, oh, let me get everybody who hates me. Maybe I should just bash Bud Light every day, and then I'll get a gigantic deal with Bud Light, right? Is that the answer? Apparently, because Kid Rock did the boom, 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 boom thing, right? And then Kid Rock gets a big deal with Bud Light. I'll tell you, if they really wanted to succeed, they'd go and give Donald Trump super PAC some money. Of course, he doesn't drink, so there goes that idea. But this is the latest and greatest. I'll tell you, the stock, it's been pretty challenged. I want to give you a read on this right now. Shares of Bud, they are still, let me see if I can tell you, shares of Bud still pretty much, they've come back a bit a bit, shall we say, from those disastrous days. I mean, it just was unbelievable when we saw this. It's up today because they like this news. They're like, okay, the company's actually figuring it out. They're trying to do something, 1.5% gain on shares of Bud. And hey, you know what? They're trying to make a big comeback here. They're trading at $62.69 a share, which puts them actually back in the range, very close to the range they were before the whole fiasco started. I mean, I'll tell you, they've started to improve. Really, I would say you can almost pinpoint the time. They brought in Kid Rock. That made a difference. Now they're bringing in this guy. Shareholders love it. It's up 1.5%. Listen, at the end of the day, it's going to be whether or not they can deliver on earnings. So if people go back and they buy Bud Light, they'll be fine. But if they continue to fall, if sales continue to decline, as we've seen, I mean, you've seen Bud Light down, 29%. I don't know how the earnings, and it's a very diverse company, by the way, in terms of its beers. I mean, they got hundreds and hundreds of beers, and they have the ability to sell them all over the world. So it's not like Bud Light's everything, but it's kind of important. And I guess it's just going to come down to whether or not the whole boycott thing really sticks. Do you think it will? Do you think it won't?